The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey, Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And he'll get here when he gets here. Your host, Robert Winfree. Yay! There he is. Yay!
All right.
We're live, pal.
Oh, sorry. I thought you weren't quite going to start yet. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, everybody.
I trust you.
That's fair. That's very fair. I've earned your trust and have yet to maximize my abuse of it. So
this is true. You're the only one.
I'm your best relationship, and that's sad on so many levels.
Well, you and Jesse, and this little, half a throuple.
Let's not bring up Jesse. That'll just ruin my mood.
Oh my god.
I'm kidding.
I was like, what?
I'm kidding. Jesse's,
all right, what are we talking about tonight?
Jesse's great, and a happy birthday to Mr. Starcher.
Yes, happy birthday to the bratty submissive Jesse Starcher.
I don't know why. Oh, right, because you had him do the.
Yep.
You need to let. I can't ask you to let that one go.
No, it's still funny to me
because you haven't been abusing it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe leave that one out of the holster. Like just you fired it off, let it go.
Put it on.
Don't reload it. Don't reload it.
Put it on my mantle.
Yeah. Let it be a tax. Let it be a trophy. It doesn't need to be everyday use.
Sure.
Everybody, Mark introduced the movie, I assume, or were you just vamping until I got here?
Honestly, I went Robert Winfree, yay, and then you showed up.
Oh, that worked out very well then. Well, since it's just Mark and I, again.
Yay! I'm more excited about that.
Well, there's not a whole lot to talk about with this movie. We are talking about The Fall Guy. Mark, The Fall Guy. Can you tell us about this particular enterprise?
I can, pal. The Fall Guy is a 2024 American action comedy film directed by David Leitch, who also directed Bullet Train. And apparently has a history in stunts. It was written by Drew Pearce, is loosely,
very,
based on the 1980s TV series about stunt performers. It follows a stuntman, Ryan Gosling, working on his ex-girlfriend, Emily Blunt's directorial debut action film, only to find himself involved in a conspiracy surrounding the film's lead actor, Aaron Taylor Johnson. In the film also features Hannah Waddingham of Ted Lasso fame, Teresa Palmer, Stephanie Hsu, and Winston Duke of Black Panther fame. The Fall Guy premiered at South by Southwest on March 12, 2024. It was released in the U.S. May 3rd by Universal Pictures. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, and as we'll talk about later, grossed $65 million worldwide. It's a Guinness World Record for the most cannon rolls performed in a car. Let me ask you real quick, and this is not like our big opening thing. I'm just curious because I remember The Fall Guy from when I was a kid. Though in my brain, The Fall Guy and The Hitchhiker are the same show. They're not. But in my brain, the HBO horror anthology, The Hitchhiker, was the same as the Lee Majors action show on network television, The Fall Guy, where a stuntman investigates crimes and shit like that.
Your brain is a weird and wonderful place.
It is a carnival of nonsense, is what it is.
Yes.
But I don't think I watched a lot of it as a kid because I was only allowed to stay up on like certain nights, if that at all. And so this was during my bedtime, and I had good parents who made sure I went to bed at 8:00 at night. So I was only allowed to stay up and watch the A-Team. So I remember like commercials about the Fall Guy from when I was a kid, but I have very little recollection of the show. Do you have any? Did you ever watch it? Ever see it in reruns?
Was not even aware it was a TV show.
Perfect.
Sorry, so, you're old. I'm getting there.
Oh yeah, yep. So I got something I want to show you, but you're gonna have to come real close.
That's your one.
I get 3 per show. Is that how this goes?
That's one. Just saying.
You're just fucking walking off. So I have on screen. This is the list of the first week of May summer blockbuster kickoff movies. It's probably a little hard to read, but I put it up there so that I could reference it. I don't have to leave it up the entire time. But I wanted to talk about this movie as it relates, because the first week of May movie, or in the case of Avengers and Infinity War and Endgame, the last week of April, traditionally kicks off the summer blockbuster season. That first Friday in May kind of sets the tone for the rest of the summer, and it's usually a big hit blockbuster, big IP movie. But I wanted to make sure I was right about this. So I did some research, and I only went back 10 years from 2019, because everything from 2020 on, it's a whole other conversation. But at least in the last 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, what kicked off the summer blockbuster season? And there is only one word for it, though the studios may have changed slightly from movie to movie, and that is Marvel. Marvel owned that first week of May summer blockbuster movie. And it goes like this. 2009 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. So that's a Fox Marvel.
A pretty terrible movie.
Yes, sir. And then you have, in 2010, Iron Man 2. So that's a Marvel. You're doing a Star Wars. Then you have Thor in 2011, The Avengers in 2012, and then everyone got lizard brain. The following year is where this really starts to kick off. You have Iron Man 3 in 2013, and then Sony had a turn at the wheel with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and thus, Hollywood was born.
And this is why we don't let Sony drive anymore. They had their chance.
they had their chance and hit a pedestrian. Then we're back in the saddle again with Marvel proper, with The Avengers Age of Ultron in 2015, Captain America Civil War in 2016, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in 2017, and Avengers Infinity War 2018, and then finally Avengers Endgame in 2019. The COVID lockdowns began in earnest in March of 2020, so throw that year out entirely. And everything that was 2020 got pushed into 2021 or 2022, was day and date, went straight to VHS, was a reel-to-reel. Nothing makes any sense after this year. But if you're keeping score, in the year of our Lord 2021, Guy Ritchie kind of stole the ball and dunked it with Wrath of Man. And then we're back to...
That's a charitable description of...
hit a three-pointer from, oh no. And then we're back in the saddle again with Marvel movies for the past 2 years, before they abandoned it in 2024 with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in 2022, and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in 2023. And my question to you...
hang on. Really, we can track the rise, peak, and utter collapse of the cinema-going experience by looking at this date for the last several years.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because we were supposed to get either Captain America or Thunderbolts, I think, this year. I know next May.
Hang on. And we're all grateful it's not one of those, because both of those are going to suck.
Yeah. And especially in their original iterations, they would have totally sucked. Or at least
they're an attempt to they're shooting Cap 4 for like the third time.
Yeah. The budget on Captain America 4 is going to end up being the same size as the gross national product of Nigeria.
Probably.
Yeah. So anyway,
Thunderbolts just shouldn't exist. Just stop that nonsense. Please stop.
We can double back to that in a few minutes, but I did want to talk about So Marvel abandoned this year entirely, and everyone's going, but what about Deadpool? Deadpool's a Fox, and for the purposes of this discussion, doesn't count. Also, interestingly enough, and I think it is worth pointing out, they could have opened the summer with Deadpool versus Wolverine. They could have taken that date. They chose to kick that movie into July. I mean, I think the movie is locked at this point and ready to go, but they opted for
One would hope
mid-July for that one, where you're starting to get into the second, you're just over the peak in July of peak movie-going season, and it's starting to die down by that point. So it's a curious choice for Disney to have done that. But
well, they're not building towards, I mean, again, we're only looking at that weekend. So you're either dealing with, because with the Marvel calendar, you're either dealing with that date is either an Avengers movie, the last movie before an Avengers movie, or the first movie after an Avengers movie.
Right.
And none of that is in play here.
Yeah, I want to talk about this movie because when you think about what you just said, that for 10 years, that was owned by one of the biggest, most visible IPs, most successful IPs in the history of movies, and that's Marvel, whether it was Marvel proper, Sony, or Fox. And when it got abandoned, nobody jumped into that. Just Universal. Universal was right there to take the spot, and they threw in there kind of a weird choice, I think. If I look at everything coming out for Universal
hang on.
coming up year, it's odd they chose this one.
Let me ask the question a different way. If you're a studio, look at all the studios, what would you have put here? And for whatever reason, not Deadpool and Wolverine. For the sake of argument, let's set that one aside.
If I'm Universal?
If you're anybody, like what would be, if you, Mark Radulich, could look at, we're trying to reinvigorate the theater going experience. We had a pandemic, and then everybody and their dog went on strike last year at some point throughout the course of time. And
can we just say for a second? Hang on. Can we just say for a second how the movie industry does itself no fucking favors? It's like, we're rebuilding from COVID. Okay, well, we're making a bunch of movie for liberal women. Okay, well, that doesn't work either. Okay, we're really gonna try to get it right this time. How about we go on strike? It's like pull pin, throw grenade, or rather pull pin, throw pin. Just
pull grenade, throw pin. Which would do this completely backwards.
Yes, ass backwards, back ass.
So, but if you, Mark, could be okay, you've gathered together all the studio heads, and you are Don Corleone, and you tell them, look, you idiots, we're trying not to have everything go under here. A bunch of theater chains are barely holding on. You've all just spent a lot of money on strikes and delays, and we're all going to take a turn kicking Disney for burning a couple of $1 billion over the last 2 years. But we're trying to reinvigorate the theater-going experience. The first week of is gonna be the one that gets us umphing.
Okay, so let's rearrange the deck chairs a little bit on this role play. You're the studio head, and you've put me and the studio executive in charge of kicking off summer blockbuster season, and I somehow have control of all the studio pictures. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Or you're big theater chain guy. Anyway, you're in charge. You have to make a decision.
However this works, you come to, you pitch me. You come to me and say, this is the movie that's going to get the summer going on the right foot and sort of reinvigorate the theater experience.
Here's my 5. Okay. We're going to limit this to 5 so we're not here all night.
Okay.
My first nomination, just kind of scanning through the list here, and I literally just have the list up and I'm kind of looking, that one maybe. My first, that one maybe, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Here's my pitch. Fury Road was one of the more successful, both critically and financially, movies of its year. It is a fan favorite, and while you and I have both said that it's probably a little past ripe to try to make some money off of this, the more they've shown trailers for it, the more excited I've gotten for this movie. My kids are excited for it. Every time they've seen the trailers, this is high energy. It's frenetic. It's visible. It's recognizable. I think this is the high-octane thrill ride to kick off the summer. What do you say, boss? Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
I don't hate it. I don't, but we're doing a spin-off to a movie from like 8 years ago. Actually, no, it's further away than that. How long ago was Fury Road?
It was 2015, buddy.
Okay, so we're 9 years away from the thing you're spinning off of. I don't hate it. So this is a strong maybe, but keep going.
Okay. I'm already into July. I haven't found anything yet that isn't a cartoon.
Believe me, I'm aware that the pickings are slim. This is why I wanted to kind of do this exercise.
Yep. Okay. Oof. It's just, we're into August. And there's been a couple that I've seen where I was like, I guess maybe, but like I'm not excited by that. So let's keep going. I think this is me we're talking about here.
And for the sake of argument, again, we're excluding Deadpool and Wolverine, which would be the more obvious choice, I think. But
it
for whatever
the
reason,
obvious choice. Yeah.
That is the obvious choice. Gosh,
I'm into September. Okay, so just so people are just like, Jesus, what are you passing up? I'm not going with Bad Boys Ride or Die. It's too niche. It's too old. And it's not the right kind of... When you think about Avengers, Captain America Civil War, Iron Man 3, there's a tone we're going for here, and Bad Boys Ride or Die isn't it.
Correct.
No cartoons.
Why no cartoons? Out of curiosity.
Again, traditionally, I mean, we're looking at 10 years of data here, 10 plus years of data. Not a single one of them was a cartoon. That also tends to be very niche. And while the Toy Stories of the world and the Dorys and, you know, and whatnot, and Inside Out.
Okay, if you're looking at Inside Out 2, I would agree, not Inside Out 2.
I mean, if it were Toy Story 3, maybe, you know, if I could time machine this, but no.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. No horror movies. There isn't a horror franchise that is a 4-quadrant movie that, you know, that we're going for here.
That's fair.
So no Despicable Me, no Quiet Day, all that shit's out. I'm not excited by the... I'm going to go see it. We're going to talk about it, but I'm not excited by the Twister sequel. Again,
would agree with
that's 100-year-old property.
Twister, while a movie I like, I remember watching that in theaters, was a great theater experience. I was a kid in Oregon.
Helen Hunt was the it girl of the time. Helen fucking Hunt, who now looks like the Crypt Keeper. No, thank you.
It's a movie that is almost 30 years old.
Yeah. So now we're
in 94. It might be older than 30, actually.
I mean, Borderlands, too niche. Looks awesome. Looks fun. My kid's excited for it. He wants to play the game now.
Borderlands, I would accept, believe it or not.
Could you imagine a world where Lionsgate kicks off the summer?
Sure. And hang on, here's why. It's bright and colorful. It's high energy. It is trying to appeal to everyone. It's only PG-13, so we're going for broad appeal, right?
Yep.
It's got a mostly recognizable cast, and we all just wait for Borderlands 2 when Kevin Hart can be shot violently repeatedly. Spoiler alert for Borderlands 2.
All right, you know what? Considering how slim Pickens' list is, let's throw Borderlands in the list for the number 2 spot. So now we have Furiosa and Borderlands. Not exactly excited here.
Neither am I, but just for the record, the other reason you might want to go with Borderlands here, lack of competition for the market. Like for the audience that you're going for in particular with that, there's not really anything else here. All
right, Alien and Romulus, no.
No, save that for its spot. It's in a good spot.
Yep. We are now into September. Okay, this isn't really my choice, but since we're talking about yes, no, maybe so, Beetlejuice. My kids are really excited for this. Apparently, the Broadway musical is really popular. There seems to be, from like the quasi goth emo culture, an obsession with Beetlejuice for some reason. Like, it's in the zeitgeist. It's in the cultural conversation. It's currently got a date of September 6th.
I think Beetlejuice works better in the fall.
I do too. I think it's a fall movie.
So
yeah, it wouldn't have been what I would have pitched you, but yeah.
No, I see what you're going for with the general suggestion, and on a different property, I actually might agree, but I don't think Beetlejuice in particular.
Okay. Can we just talk about Joker Folie à Deux for just a moment?
I mean, if you want to, I don't want to, but
at all.
Ever.
You know, Joker was a smash hit in its time. It spoke to the condition of like the general mental health of this country, and I think it was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, there's two things about Joker that need to be properly understood. For one, while the movie Joker is accessible to anyone, it was one of the rare movies around that time that was pretty clearly aimed at men. And I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean, like Top Gun Maverick is aimed at men. Right. Anyone can enjoy it. But like, what are we aiming at here? Right. Joker was more or less aimed at men. And it spoke to a lot of simmering tension and a lot of undiagnosed mental illness that was going on.
Sure.
The problem now is everyone has been diagnosed and they're not doing anything about it, and that's a whole other kettle of fish.
It's not just men who are sick anymore. Like we said this before. Like,
hang on,
2019. No, I mean I'm being way facetious and way general.
Well, allow me to be slightly less facetious, but make a similar point.
Mm-hmm.
Men are aware of our own sicknesses, even if we don't acknowledge them. Somewhere we are personally aware of them. We may deny it to your face, but we know. Women are so deep in denial, they've all got honorary Egyptian citizenship. Like, just no.
So anyway, I've seen the trailers for Joker. I think this utterly misses the point. I don't think anyone knew why that movie was as popular as it was. I don't think anyone's listening to this conversation from Warner Brothers Studios when they were making this movie. And I actually think this is going to bomb. I don't think this is going to do well at all. I think everyone that liked Joker looks at this and goes, well, you're not talking to me anymore, so now I don't want to go see it. What a fundamental misunderstanding, by the way, from the trailers, at least, of Harley Quinn. Anyway, so anyway, no, I would not nominate Joker fully to do, but I needed to just call it out.
Yeah, that's okay where it is.
Okay.
That, or it needed to, if you wanted to move Joker somewhere else, throw it in April, because April's dreary and that fits.
Yeah, sure. I would not nominate Venom: The Last Dance because I don't think the second one.
I don't think that movie is going to come out.
I don't think the second one did as well as it was intended to do.
It failed miserably.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot. I don't think there's a huge appetite for a third Venom movie at this point.
No.
Okay. Gladiator 2 is what am I up to 3?
Ooh.
I have to pick. Gladiator 2. I think.
Okay, that's a thought.
It's running in the wrong direction in terms of, didn't you just say no 100-year-old properties and things that don't need sequels? Okay, sure. But I mean, hot, sweaty men hitting each other with swords. People remember Gladiator, like they have it on video at home.
Here's the only reason I would say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
Ridley Scott's recent track record is ass.
Yeah, but do the normies know that?
Yes, Mark. Yes, okay. They do. That's why they're not seeing his movies.
Okay, fair. I'm leaving it in the list though. Not Wicked. That's a musical later in the year kind of a thing. No, thank you.
Hang on. Wicked is musicals have to be near award season. There's like a rule about it.
Right. So no Wicked. Moana 2 is animated.
No, yeah.
Fuck Kraven the Hunter. It's just no. It's absolutely not.
What they should have done was pushed Madam Web from earlier in the year to this date. That would have solved all their problems.
All right, and then the only ones left here are, dude, we don't have 5.
No, we don't. No, we don't
have 5 because Gladiator, because I think I said Furiosa, Borderlands and Gladiator 2 and literally nothing else, because here's what rounds out the year so far: Kraven the Hunter, Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is about the only thing I could think of. But again, Mufasa, Sonic the Lion King, no thank you.
You see the trailer for that, by the way?
For what?
For Mufasa?
I have not, but I've heard it's deep fried ass.
I believe I told you that.
You were the drinker, or both, in unison, in both one ear and in the other ear.
If you want to, hang on. If you guys want a fun thing about that about the Mufasa trailer on YouTube, YouTube's been hiding downvotes from public view for a while now. which, by the way, the disingenuous nature of YouTube saying we're doing this for the mental health of our creators. If that's your video, you still see the downvotes. You're doing this for advertisers.
Right.
You're doing this because you don't want anyone and their dog to look at that thing and go, boy, everybody hates this.
Well, yeah,
it's not about the creators.
Look at what happened with Ghostbusters Answer the Call, and let me finish my statement. What happened with Ghostbusters Answer the Call was everyone saw how many downvotes it got, and that's all anyone talked about. Yes, there was a side conversation about the quality of the movie and all of that, but it paled in comparison to the larger conversation that was dominating social media, which was, look how many people hate this movie, based solely on downvotes, which the mopes at Red Letter Media deconstructed and proved wasn't the case, using simple math. Like, these guys aren't rocket scientists, but they used statistical analysis to figure out that's bullshit.
It was significantly exaggerated by a lot of people, but the world we live in. Yeah. But there are extensions for your browser that will reinstate with a fair degree of accuracy the downvote counter. It's got more downvotes than upvotes, which is not surprising. Disney turned off the comments. You cannot comment on the Mufasa trailer.
That's fantastic.
That's how bad it was received. Congratulations, people. We're doing a prequel to a remake.
So the question,
what are we doing here?
So if you're not going to do Furiosa, it's fine where it is. You're not going to do Borderlands, it's fine where it is. And you're not going to do Gladiator, it's fine where it is. Then literally this was the best choice to kick off the movie season thus far. And as we're going to talk about with the money, it fouled the ball. Like, it's just a shame. I also think this was the wrong movie to put here just by the nature of what it is. Do I think this would have been a fine summer movie? Sure. Should it have been the one to kick off blockbuster season? No. And there's already talk that, like, this thing is gonna falter when Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which, don't get me wrong, I love the new Planet of the Apes movies. They've been great, but they are also dreary as fuck.
Well, I know plenty of people who are going back to the Planet of the Apes franchise for the first time, and I've talked with one of my brothers about this. Mm-hmm. That is a franchise from start to finish that has 1.5 bad movies in it.
Yeah,
which for a franchise, because I mean the last one in the original series, I forget the name, might have been Kingdom, because it's Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, and then the last, then Rise, then the last one. And I think that's just Kingdom, because that's just the world with apes and humans. Only the last one and about half of the one before it, half of Rise, are, I think, substandard films. And even Rise, I've felt a little bit better about on rewatch. It's the only time I ever think, well, not the only time. It's one of the few times brutalist architecture has actually worked as set design, but it does there. And then the new trilogy was universally great. Yeah. And I hate saying that about anything involving James Franco, but I can't lie about it. Right. We reviewed 2 of those movies and were nothing but positive.
Well, it does bear the question, would they have been better off maybe swapping these, doing kicking off this? What a weird world we would have lived in if they had kicked off the summer blockbuster season with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Might have been a very good choice, just for the record. Mm-hmm. Again, that's a franchise that has nothing but positive association with it. Mm-hmm. It looks gorgeous. It's one of the few movies, I'll talk about this when we talk about this movie in particular, but Kingdom actually looks like it might be worth the theater experience. Like it actually is kind of built for the big screen. And again, they've all done well, both critically and financially. It might have been a much better choice.
All right, so you and I got into the last bit of this, and then we're going to get into the plot synopsis because we're at 30 minutes now. But I did want to bring this up. I know you've got a bee in your bonnet about it. I think it's just worth having a polite conversation, an educated, an ascendant conversation.
We have nothing but polite conversation, Mark.
Through gritted teeth. If you were to save one of the movies that got kicked into one next year, Let's for argument's sake, and so I can move this a little bit faster. Let's say we're gonna save Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was gonna save its spot in 2020. What year are we in? 2024. In May 3rd. So I was thinking about this because you and I started to have this argument, and I said, no, let's just talk about it later. I don't have time right now.
Well, it's also the kind of discussion that requires voice rather than text.
Yeah,
otherwise we end up talking past each other too much.
Yeah, especially with you and me. Here's my opening argument, Your Honor.
All right.
Because of Lizard Brain and because of the legitimate success of the Avengers movies, the going thesis was team movies make billions of dollars. It's wrong. There's more to it than that, but Lizard Brain doesn't hear you.
At this point, Lizard Brain should have learned no. But again, at this point, there was a time when I would have accepted, okay, Lizard Brain.
Mm-hmm.
We've now gotten to the point where Lizard Brain is about survival on instinct and repetition of things that work. Continually biting your own arm off is not something Lizard Brain should sustain.
So for the normies, the Avengers made money, the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies made money, and the commonality is they're both team movies. One was a self-sustaining, self-sufficient, isolated team, and the other one built off other movies. Okay, in simplest terms. So, and I bring that up because that's the structure in which these things work. Either you have a team that comes together in the first movie and stays together through successive movies, or you have a team that comes together through a series of movies, has their team movie, breaks apart, rinse, repeat. Avengers and Guardians. What the studio took from that was, okay, well, if two teams made billions of dollars, what would 3 teams do? So they were building towards a Young Avengers movie. They were building towards a New Avengers movie. And then they were building towards Thunderbolts. And Thunderbolts essentially is the Marvel version of the Suicide Squad for all intents and purposes. It's all the villains get together and they form a Secret Service, operative team working for the government to handle the things that the Avengers don't handle. It's not really...
All these are terrible ideas, but these are the directions they were going.
Yeah. So the Thunderbolt team consists of characters that were introduced either on Disney Plus or from previous movies.
Well, let me rephrase that for you in a more accurate way. The Thunderbolts team is comprised of characters no one has seen.
So in theory, the Thunderbolts team consists of Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier.
Okay, he's the only one.
American movies. You have Florence Pugh's Black Widow.
No one saw Black Widow character. And no one saw Hawkeye.
Okay. Actually, keep doing that just so because then I don't have to.
Yeah.
You have Red Guardian from Black Widow.
No one saw Black Widow.
Okay. You have Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No one cares or remembers Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You have Baron von Raschke from...
No one saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier. First of all, it's not Baron von Raschke. He's not a wrestler from the AWA.
Baron, whatever his name is. From Civil War.
It's Nicholas Stolze. And no one, once again, no one saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And I think that's everybody.
There's one more guy from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 2 technically. Because U.S. Agent's supposed to be in it.
Oh, that's right. U.S. Agent.
And Julia Louis-Dreyfus's terrible take on Madam Viper.
Right. Okay. So yeah,
no one has seen anyone other than Sebastian Stan. Is kind of the long and the short of that.
So my opening argument essentially is this: this was doable, despite Robert's protestations. In a perfect world with competent people, this was doable. Had 2 things changed. One, they introduced these characters in better products and better movies and in better TV shows. 2, Thunderbolts was a Phase 4 movie. They waited way too long, way past ripe to do this movie. And that's not even counting the delay. Because we were supposed to get it this year. But this year, Hawkeye was what? 2022?
That or 21.
Yeah, it was right. It was at the ass end of 2021, if I remember correctly.
I never seen it, so
right. So Black Widow
putting myself through that. Sorry.
Black Widow was 2021. Ant-Man and the fucking Wasp was 2019?
Ant-Man and the Wasp came out between There were two movies that came out between Avengers and Infinity War and Endgame. One was Captain Marvel, the other was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe, was like early Disney Plus. So that's what.
That was the that was the second MCU show that was released on Disney Plus. First was WandaVision.
Right. And that was, I think, 2021, if I remember correctly.
Probably.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of this from memory. I should probably look it up. My point is, half of these characters were 3 and 4 years ago, and they're waiting 3 or 4 years later to do the movie. This only works. Like, I'll give you an example, and you're going to hate it and argue with me, but just go with it. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like their almost season finale was the bit with the Scepter and Hydra, and there was like a stinger at the end of the episode that led directly into Avengers Age of Ultron. It was like, we got the thing for Hydra, get the Avengers, and literally the next thing you see is the opening to the Age of Ultron with the Avengers running towards a Hydra base to kick that movie off. That's how you do that. It doesn't work any other way. At this point, one, half of what I just named, nobody gives a shit about or didn't like. Two, there's so much time in between any of those things that nobody cares anymore. If they had done two or three shows all in succession and ended it with a movie in rapid succession, Thunderbolts would have been probably fine. It would have still been in that window of Marvel still has cachet from the previous years. Unfortunately, we're now living in the post the Marvel's age, where Marvel is just like cachet bankrupt, and yeah, sure, it's gonna fail next year because nobody gives a shit. Go ahead.
Well, let me counter with a couple of things, if I may.
This is gonna be a 3-hour podcast, which we're never gonna get to the Fall Guy.
We'll get there in a second or two, but hang on. If I may.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been the canary in the coal mine about what a bad idea it is to base your movies around a TV show. In that respect. Now, it didn't bite them in the butt because you didn't have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
You could just go watch Avengers Age of Ultron and everything still works. You did not need
that opening scene works whether or not you saw the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sure.
Making television between movies mandatory for understanding is a giant fail. Do not do this, anyone, ever. Because people start to think like it's homework.
Yeah.
I want to watch Avengers Age of Ultron. What do I need to understand Avengers Age of Ultron? Well, 2 seasons of this show that you weren't interested in. Well, maybe I'm just not going to watch the movie.
Right.
That's the danger you run into when you do this at all. Second point. Basing the television that people must watch to follow this on your streaming platform is another level of failure. At a bare minimum, anyone could watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was on free TV.
Yeah, it was on ABC.
If I'm not subscribed to Disney Plus, and you tell me to understand the next Avengers movie, I need to have watched, if I need to have watched WandaVision to understand Doctor Strange, and then I need to have watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier to understand Captain America 4, and I need to have watched Hawkeye to understand, and on and on and on and on. People are going to tune out. They're going to not watch because who has all this time? Especially for a bunch of stuff you don't care about or are not interested in. These are bad ideas. That's all they are. The Thunderbolts might have been able to sustain through that if the movie was written and made with the understanding that 80% of the people buying a ticket have never seen the requisite shows. If you had done that. But we know that's not what they did. We know that's not how they were writing these things. We know that's not what the heartless, soulless machinery production line of these things was churning out at the time. And it was more importantly, you're dealing with a bunch of characters. Bear in mind, everyone likes to throw no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Okay, I'll give you that. The Guardians, however, had a good cast that had good chemistry and a creative director that had a deep love for the characters involved. Tell me anything about the Thunderbolts that leads you to believe any of that is in play.
The other thing about Guardians of the Galaxy was James Gunn had his finger on the pulse of the audience, which I don't believe anyone working for Disney now has.
Correct. So Thunderbolts was always a bad idea. There are times when it would have been a less bad idea than right now when it's a terrible idea.
All right. Which leads us all the way back to 40 minutes ago. Maybe the Fall Guy was the best possible choice to kick off May, but I think that tells you a lot about the state of the movie and the theatrical exhibition right now. And it's like, it's not like we don't talk about this every fucking week on this show, but, you know, from the angle of, okay, we get it. It sucks. Stop kicking that particular horse. Okay, well, what are we going to do to save it? And I think the Fall Guy is emblematic of there's nothing you can do. At this point, the patient's on life support, and we're hoping for brain activity, but at some point, we're just going to have to pull the plug. So speaking of pulling the plug, Robert, the plot synopsis.
So the Fall Guy follows Ryan Gosling as stuntman Cole Seavers, and begins with him in a relationship with Emily Blunt. And he is the traditional stunt double stand-in for one of the biggest movie stars in the world. I can't say this universe's version of Tom Cruise, because at one point he says, "Put my face on Tom Cruise." So Tom Cruise is a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But
by the way, my son, the whole movie, why didn't they just get Tom Cruise for this? Because he's 100, Jonas. Because he's 100.
Because Tom Cruise is self-serious enough to not want some of his foibles made public, like his Post-it notes. The Post-it notes is a shot at Wesley Snipes, for the record, but...
Gotcha. I didn't know
he
that.
famously would only communicate with the director of Blade 3, which was...
well, isn't that because it became a toxic relationship between those two? Not that that's just how he is. Like, he wasn't on the set of White Men Can't Jump with a bunch of Post-it notes.
No, dude, in Blade 3 at one point, he's supposed to open his eyes and refused.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand.
His eyes opening in this shot are CGI'd.
Okay. The Blade 3 thing, I think, is sort of a standalone situation, not emblematic of the guy's whole career. Keep going.
Well, it was kind of a turning point. It's more true now than it used to be in the past.
Okay.
But so he is the stand-in for every terrible actor. Just unreasonable, self-absorbed, neurotic. And I'm pretty sure they just followed Aaron Taylor Johnson around for this. I kid, he's going to be James Bond. I'm sure he's fine. But what? Ugh.
Just keep going. I don't want to talk about it.
No. Tell me why you think it should be Idris Elba, and I can tell you why you're wrong. Please.
I think it actually should have been Henry Cavill.
Okay, that's true. It should have been Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And it's Cavill, not Cavill, just for the record.
It's Gal Gadot. Got it.
Fair enough. There was a time when it should have been Elba, but now he's 100.
Yes. That's why
still great. Still love Idris Elba, but... So we open with Cole going through a stunt that goes wrong and winds up with him breaking his back. And then we flash forward 18 months when he has become kind of a hermit. He works as a valet. And he gets called by the evil movie producer. And it's an evil movie producer because it's a movie producer. The twist that Gale is in on this is the least twist of any twist ever.
Keep going.
It's weird that this movie decides to take the stance that actors and producers are evil.
Yeah.
But that is kind of the message of the film.
It's kind of self-critical, which is funny.
Directors and stuntmen, great. Everyone else, you're shit.
Everyone else, terrible. We hate you. You're a beast of burden.
You really are. He is called back in to work on a movie that is now being directed by Emily Blunt. And it's been 18 months again, and he kind of blew her off. And he's been going through horrible depression and physical rehabilitation. Only guy I've ever seen who broke his back and wound up more shredded. But hey, fair enough.
Yeah, normally you break your back, you look like me.
I'm sure the steroids were great. I'm sure the steroids that Ryan Gosling is on are top notch.
Ken Shamrock says steroids are for healing.
he's not wrong. They're intended for healing.
Yes, they are horrible.
Whether they are used for healing or not is a whole other discussion.
That is correct.
So he gets called in. He flies to Sydney, Australia, where this movie's being shot because Sydney paid for that. There's a lot of meta stuff going on here that I'm not sure how to reference in places. Like he shows up, he works the first day, and it turns out Emily Blunt did not want him there. The evil movie producer wants him here to frame him for a thing that we'll get to in a minute. But like he gets a car from the movie production, and the guy who gives him the car says, "Don't ruin it, it's product placement." And we, as the actual movie-going audience, then spend a lot of time with that car prominently featured. And this is almost like the end of Babylon, when I'm not sure how many layers of meta and reality are blending together into one.
Yeah, I definitely had a moment like that.
But he's actually been brought here allegedly to find Aaron Taylor Johnson, because he's on a bender and he's no-showing the movie, and it goes to show how little you actually need the people that sell the tickets in these things. So he goes looking for him, can't find him, finds his girlfriend, goes and finds his drug dealer, gets doped, finds a body in a bathtub, and goes to find the cops, goes back up there. The body is no longer in the bathtub full of ice. And he's like, okay, you know what? I was drugged. Against my will. I'm sorry. Shows up to work the next day. They just work. There's a lot of banter between him and Emily Blunt. She finally figures out the third act of their movie, which is nearing finishing of production. We don't have a third act. This is not how you're supposed to shoot movies, by the way.
But
I know it's very common.
I was going to say, but it's been how we've been shooting movies for about a decade now.
And nothing good has come of it. Nothing good has come of this.
Nothing.
Have a script first. Have a script first, people. That's all.
And have it be finalized, locked.
Yeah. Don't be writing it as you go. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
He winds up. So he goes to look for Aaron Taylor Johnson again, because if the movie star doesn't show up to set at least once over the course of like 2 weeks, then the studio will pull the plug on this whole thing. And he doesn't want his would-be girlfriend to have her directorial debut flounder. Never mind that your directorial debut being a movie this big with this much of a budget is an iffy proposition to begin with. We are where we are with the movie industry.
I have 2 words for you. Chloe Zhao.
That was not her directorial debut.
It was not, but it might as well have been. It was certainly her. It certainly was her big budget. You know, we're trusting you with a big IP, which is what the implication they're going with Emily Blunt.
No. This is not her first big budget movie. This is her first movie.
Yes, I understand that. They added that level of tension to it, but that's a close enough. That's a close enough parallel. Hey, I followed Frances McDormand around with a VHS camera in her fucking, RV. Great. That won an Oscar. Here's $200 million. Go make a space odyssey.
No reputable no directors who actually would make blockbuster movies want to work with Marvel anymore, and it shows.
Yeah.
So he goes to look for him again, figures out what's going. The upshot here is Aaron Taylor Johnson accidentally killed his original stunt double in a drug-fueled bit of shenanigans, and that was the body he found. And the people responsible for the movie star. So really, the Scientologists are out here trying to cover up for one of their own. I thought that would get a bigger laugh, but okay.
Keep going, buddy. Almost at an hour.
They are looking for the phone of Aaron Taylor Johnson because it has evidence. Cole winds up getting it. We get an action set piece. He looks through it and discovers the evidence that, again, Aaron Taylor Johnson killed a guy. And now the studio and the producer and all of his private security are trying to cover it up. So shenanigans. Another action set piece. The phone winds up destroyed. Cole is announced as, again, the guy they're looking at for having killed the original stunt double. And he's not sure what to do about this because this is kind of a mess. He finds Aaron Taylor Johnson on his yacht, which was parked across the street from his flat, like the place he's been staying, literally across the street on the yacht Aaron Taylor Johnson. Everyone in this movie is an idiot. And Aaron Taylor Johnson then lays out kind of what I laid out, like we're going to frame you. And in his villainous monologue, he reveals that, yes, I killed him and I sabotaged your the stunt that broke your back. It was me. I'm the author of all your pain. And Ryan Gosling escapes from this scenario, fakes his death. Then on the movie set, because Aaron Taylor Johnson is a douchebag actor who always forgets that he's mic'd up, a la Christian Bale yelling at a sound guy. Or Michael Cera being Michael Cera.
I remember the Christian Bale thing. Boy, that was a lot of fun audio back then.
Yeah, it was. The sad thing, he's not entirely wrong. He just comes across very poorly.
Well, yeah, anyone in any work environment screaming like that is generally not a good look, even if you're in the right.
Generally. It's been a while since you've worked retail, Mark. I can just tell you that.
Fair.
So they concoct an elaborate scheme whereby Aaron Taylor Johnson winds up confessing. They record the whole thing. There's a last bit where he and the producer try to escape. It fails. Stuntmen save the day. And ultimately, the movie's a big success. They recast Aaron Taylor Johnson with Jason Momoa. Not Jason Momoa playing someone else, just Jason Momoa in universe is Jason Momoa. Gets recast. They reshoot a couple of scenes. They do a bunch of crap digitally, and no one knows the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Right? The movie's a big hit. Ryan Gosling gets back together with Emily Blunt. They adopt one of the dogs from Aaron Taylor Johnson. Then we see that Lee Majors gets his cameo, because you always have to have a cameo from someone involved in the original when we do these things these days. Then Aaron Taylor Johnson did not believe they were the real police. He ran off looking for cell service and blew himself up. Like you do. And the producer gets arrested and thrown in an Australian jail and lobster. So I don't have a lot here, Mark. I really don't.
So a couple of quick takes. My son, he enjoyed it, as did my daughter.
Your daughter enjoyed a romance movie? I am shocked.
Let me get there. So my son's whole thing was, I didn't quite understand what he was talking about. You know, maybe you might catch this, but he was just like, I didn't understand why they needed Ryan Gosling for the things that they needed him for. Like,
they needed him to be there to look incriminating so they could frame him for the murder.
He was talking specifically about the stunts. So there's a couple of shots of Ryan Gosling like doing action stuff that isn't really a stunt, and I think that's the point he was trying to make. Like they have shots of Ryan Gosling like doing fighting scenes, and it's like those aren't stunts. And there's my son, literally just like, that's not a stunt. That's not what he should be doing. Like he's gonna like redirect these scenes for the for David Leitch.
Inform your son of how infrequent it is that actors actually do stage fighting.
Okay, I will let him know.
No, it's rare that you see an actor actually do their own stage fighting like that. It's not impossible. It's just on the rarer side. For bigger, more involved stunts, they are bigger, more involved fights, especially for big action guys or big stars. No, they don't. There's too much stuff going on. There's too much danger until everything is really nailed down. They don't really do that. Why would the stunt guy have to jump off of the thing and flip and land in the water? Because the actor doesn't want to get wet that day. And if it's a big actor, that's all the excuse they need.
Okay, that's fair. And I'm glad I brought that up. My daughter really liked it. And who cares? Here's the point.
Even you've given up on your daughter at this
point. No. When I say like who cares, it's why is that important? I'm going to tell you why it's important. A long time ago, I fell in love with the craft of movie making, and everyone hears me say craft, and Chris Bailey cries. No, here's what I'm talking about.
We don't get, yeah, but Chris Bailey's tears are single-handedly fixing fixing drought in California, if it were possible.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I fell in love with the craft of movie making, the setting up of cameras, the lighting of stages, the miking of actors, the blocking of scenes and stunts, that everything that I fell in love with producing movies, getting the funding, selling the pictures, finding a distributor, finding a studio if you're independent. Everything that goes into making a movie besides the actual movie itself, I loved. It's part of the reason why I do this. One of the many reasons. The reasons why Rob and I take one movie and dig into the minutia is because I genuinely enjoy it. I like talking about all of the individual elements of movie making. There was a period, believe it or not, and I was this kind of douchebag that actually stayed and watched the credits, and I would actually individually read as much as I could with, because boy, it's that small print. But I would individually read who worked on what, who had what part, worked on what part of making the movie, and looking at how many people were Dolly Grips and Best Boys. And I've read books on this stuff, not just on the making of movies or digging into the content of them, but marketing movie. I've read books on marketing movies, all of it. And this movie was a reminder of why I enjoy this sort of thing. Why the minutia of movie making is appealing to me. And my daughter's reaction to The Fall Guy was, wow, I really love the idea. I really love the art of making movies. This movie made me enjoy all of the behind the scenes stuff that I never knew about. And I was like, all right, see, success here.
Yay, suddenly we're bonded again.
So I thought it was nice. I mean, for the 5 people who fucking saw this thing, I hope they had a similar experience of oh, look, there really is an art and craft and a soul to making a movie. And that to me was one of my big takeaways of The Fall Guy. As for the craft elements, it's good. I enjoyed it. There was parts of it that I was on the edge of my seat for. I was really enjoying. I had a big smile. I had a big old, Star Wars smile on my face. Oh, I'm here and I'm enjoying this. I'm part of this experience. It's not perfect. Here's the part where I make everyone cry. Here's what's wrong with this movie. It's too fucking long.
Yeah, it really is.
This clocked in at over 2 hours, and this is maybe 1 hour and 45 minutes at best.
Yeah, this is not a 2-hour movie, and it shows, and it really drags.
It's not. The first act is paced way poorly. It's almost jarring. After that initial stunt, and there are some movies that are paced this way. This isn't my kids are movie trained, but I almost think you can't show this to a lot of kids. If you're let's as a family, because it's the first week of May, let's go see the big opening blockbuster. I don't think a lot of kids can get through this, because you're going to lose them in that first 30 to 40 minutes, because that 30 to 40 minutes is just a rom-com. Once you get past the initial stunt and the breaking of his back and all of that stuff leading to his search, everything from him showing up on set for Metal Storm to the first initial I'm looking for Aaron Taylor Johnson stuff, everything with him and Emily Blunt is great and boring. I enjoyed it, but I'm an adult. Okay, I could kind of
so you completely relate to a woman with a bullhorn standing 60 feet away going, set him on fire again.
I mean, damn it, I promised I wouldn't make those jokes.
That's why I make them for you.
Thank you. No, I could feel. I said my girlfriend came and my kids came, and I could feel all 3 of them getting bored until the action picked up. Which brings me to my second problem. Introducing your villain as the villain in the 3rd act of the movie, or the second half of the second half of the second act, is not great. And too many movies make this mistake, and it's kind of irritating. That's why I wanted to call it out. The twist that Aaron Taylor Johnson was the author of all his pain and sabotaged the stunt comes out of left field, if only because you barely see Aaron Taylor Johnson in that entire sequence. Because all I remember the first 10 minutes of that movie is how cute Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling are together. They're being all cutesy on the radio. And you're watching Ryan Gosling walk around this set. You're seeing him get set up with the rig. They drop him, and the next thing you know, he's in the gurney, and the next thing you know, he's depressed and sad and lonely. I barely remembered Aaron Taylor Johnson was in that sequence. There needed to be some time spent with the 2 of them antagonizing each other. There needed to be somewhat more of a reason for Aaron Taylor Johnson to almost commit murder. Okay? I mean, he sabotages a rig that could have killed Ryan Gosling. There needed to be more to it. Yeah, there needed to be more to it than that. It's flimsy. It's a little too cute by half, and it needed to be fleshed out and beefed up a bit more. Besides that, This movie is a love letter to the stunt craft, and it's a little too in love with itself. There's some editing that needed.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Not just in length, in total length of the movie, but some of the action sequences. I'm thinking of specifically the one with the garbage truck that needed to be shaved down. Yeah, this gets over the top. We need to kind of get there a little faster. There's that level of pacing where I feel some of these scenes are just taking way too long, and they're not doing enough with them to, like, when I think about well-paced action sequences, The Matrix Reloaded, probably one of the best examples. The Keanu Reeves versus 100 Agent Smiths has beats to it, to where things are building, and finally we crescendo and we're out of the scene. The Ghost Henchman car chase, like one of the best car chases in cinema history.
Oh yeah, the one where they actually like built a bunch of freeway in like the Australian outback. Yeah,
yes.
Great.
All of that stuff is great. Here, this falls into that complaint category we have of nobody is telling anyone no anymore, and they're just letting people just shoot whatever. God only knows what they cut out of this. That this is what they decided to keep. Other than that, things that are good about it. The stunts in and of themselves, besides taking too long, are entertaining. Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling are hot together on screen. They have wonderful sexual chemistry. I think Ryan Gosling's a great leading man. Too bad he works in an industry where leading men don't make money, or draw tickets.
I struggle with Gosling as a lead.
Okay, I don't.
I mean, okay, hang on.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of exactly one movie where he's the lead that I've even gone out of my way to see.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the Blade Runner sequel.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, he's good in it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, look.
Some of this is the death of the leading role in general.
20 years ago, we're not having this discussion. He's fine. He's hot. He's a good actor. He's muscular, and he's unassuming. He's got that kind of Keanu Reeves aw shucks thing going on. So he's not quite Tom Cruise. Like I said, he's more of the Keanu. Ryan Gosling should have been in Point Break. Okay, he's in Point Break. He's perfect. The problem is Ryan.
Hang on, no, Ryan Gosling is just too much like Patrick Swayze to be in Point Break.
My point being, he's born too late. Ryan Gosling would have worked 20 years ago. Ryan Gosling would have worked from the 70s till about the mid 2000s. After that, it's a little touchy. And now he's just, the industry's fucking dead. There's nothing he can do. This is a perfectly good movie. By all rights, 20 years ago, this could have kicked off May and been just fine. It's the wrong movie at the wrong time. There's nothing anyone can do about it, and that's a shame. Emily Blunt, I really liked Emily Blunt's character, and I want to draw a circle around this because we here at the Radulich and Broadcasting Network may have been accused of being a little misogynist. I don't know why people would say that. However,
why, Mark? Whatever do you mean? Which one of us has been known to go on the occasional misogynistic rant?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway,
for the record.
But in our casual misogyny, we do accurately point out when women are written poorly, and when they're written well, so as to not be actual misogynists. True. I need to point that out. And I think Emily Blunt's character is extremely well written. I think she hits all of her pitches. I think she is an excellent performer. They gave her a little bit of stuff to do, and all I could think about was, this is the same broad who's the girl Indiana Jones in Jungle Book. Like, you had Emily Blunt here, who can do action stuff and looks passable, and and it's perfectly okay. And you have one scene where she beats somebody up. One. The rest of it, she's just kind of like Jennifer Lopez 20 years ago.
You've got 3 scenes where she beats people up, to be fair.
What are the other 2 besides the end of the movie?
Well, she beats the crap out of Ryan Gosling when he accosts her in the costume.
That's the same scene.
No, because then at the end of the movie, she beats up a security guard.
Yeah, all right. They're so close together. It's practically the same scene. And I can't remember the third one. They don't have her doing anything action-y up to that point.
I want to say there's one other kind of, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So
either way, you had the chick from Jungle Book. You didn't really use her that way, which makes me wonder why you got her at all. I can think of like 10 other actresses that would have been the same in this role and giving you the same level of intensity in the action sequence, which is practically nothing. Why get Action McGee? It's just an odd choice.
Because unfortunately, look, man, you mentioned someone kind of like born too late. Emily Blunt has not found the right role because she's another woman who can absolutely hold her own in action sequences.
Yeah,
she's
again,
great.
Jungle Book.
Who is she in Jungle Book?
Opposite Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh, Jungle Cruise, not Jungle Book.
Oh shit, Jungle Cruise. Yeah, sorry.
I was very confused for a minute.
Haunted Mansion, whatever.
Well, no, those are two very different things. One of which makes no sense.
Pinocchio, I don't know, something.
Okay,
Disney.
okay. So no, Jungle Cruise. Yes, you're right. She absolutely is good there. Holds her own. She's great in Edge of Tomorrow, where she's actioning opposite Tom Cruise, and it works. She should have been like Laura Croft, right?
Yeah, that would have been great casting.
Instead, it's Fleabag.
Ugh.
No, but who was it the other week that we were talking about, and I said like this woman just it was
Margot Robbie.
Oh, Melissa Barrera.
Okay, yeah.
Where I said like needs to find her Ripley role because that's what she's more built for. Same kind of thing with Emily Blunt because she's been in some of those roles, but for whatever reason, she kind of gets either overlooked or forgotten, despite being pretty darn good in all of them. I mean, look, Jungle Cruise flopped for market reasons, not necessarily because anyone did a bad job in that movie.
It's day and date. It released in 2021. It was dark out, and there were wolves after it.
Again, like I'm making the point there. Like,
yeah,
that would have been. I regret the way that movie turned out because it was the right kind of throwback in general in terms of craft and tone and pacing and pretty much everything.
I wish they had put that out last year instead of Indiana Jones 5: The Death of Cinema.
They should have we should have released Indiana Jones 5 at the height of COVID and just been like, well, that's why it failed.
Release this movie when no one can go to theaters. It'll be perfect.
Yes, when everything's locked down. Well, we put it out there.
It's not its fault.
Have you seen somebody like I think it was Forbes wrote an article recently about how much money Indiana Jones 5 lost.
Yeah,
and it's like $200 million.
Only in America can you fail this badly and not get fired.
It's very true. So I do kind of see your point. Here's my only caveat. You needed someone who had the right chemistry with Ryan Gosling for this. And I'm not saying you couldn't have found anyone else. I'm going to say that if you find someone that does click that way, you don't question it.
Okay. And look, here's the thing. They are desperately trying.
What are they going to do? Get Margot Robbie here? Come on.
Damn it. Yeah, kind of. I was thinking it, but I didn't want to fight with you about it. I think.
Hey, look, Fleabag could have been here, but she's so unlikable. No one would ever have believed that there's chemistry with her and someone else.
Look, I don't want to criticize the movie necessarily. You know, it's like it doesn't make the movie bad necessarily. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's just kind of Emily Blunt's better than what they got out of her in this movie because most of her, it's funny. The Fall Guy tonally is two different movies.
Yeah,
and this is probably
they never harmonize.
No, and that's about what I was. That's what I was gonna say. This is peanut butter and pickle juice, and I don't know. And like, wait, what do we do? What are we doing here? Emily Blunt's in a rom-com, and Ryan Gosling's in an action comedy, and the twains when they meet don't mesh well.
Never the twain shall meet.
Yeah. And so she's doing, and I really liked her in this. She has a lot of earnest. I love Emily Blunt in this movie. Unfortunately, like they don't do a great job of integrating the romance stuff in with the action stuff. So it's jarring when you have those transitions. Number one. Number two, she's got this really like I mentioned Jennifer Lopez. I almost would have rathered like a modern Jennifer Lopez, or Jennifer Aniston. Like I think for this movie, I needed a Jennifer Aniston type. Right now, Jennifer Aniston is too old for this. She's 1,000 years old, but she was born in the time of Christ. I get it, but but whoever the modern Jennifer Aniston is, that's who they should have gotten for this with what they were going to do.
Hang on, for the record, the closest I think the modern analog for Jennifer Aniston is Colby Smuthers.
The fucking broad from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yep.
Get the fuck out of here.
What does she do that's actually action-oriented? She stands around and shoots a gun on occasion.
She was in that comic book adaptation that Ronnie and I covered.
Okay.
Junktown, Smithtown, Poptown, Roberttown, Winfree Town, something town. Some town. That's the one. Thank you.
You got there eventually.
I had to just work my way through the dictionary. That's all I got to say. I mean, I would love to pitch people. So William Bibiani on Critically Acclaimed was just like, it's like go see this when it's on Peacock, because Lord knows no one's going to the theater to see it. It's a shame. I saw it in IMAX. I can't. I don't have the strength to convince people to go see this in the movie theater anymore. Like, that's an uphill fucking battle in the snow. You're a witness, sir.
Like you said, there's a lot good here. Gosling and Blunt have really good chemistry. The stunts are mostly very good. There's a few that, like you said, they get dragged out, a little bit too self-indulgent. The tone shift is a big problem for me. Like, he goes from being drugged, fighting a bunch of people in a club, breaking into a hotel, finding a body, and filing a police report, to just showing up at work the next day like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, no, those wires are not crossing.
This movie has the pacing of a student driver. It's too slow in spots, then it's too fast, then you're herky jerky, then you try to parallel park and hit the car behind you. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Somebody mentioned this, and I couldn't help but notice it. This is not just a criticism of this movie. This movie actually does a slightly better job at this. But Mark, when was the last time you watched like a classic Jackie Chan film?
It's been a while.
Right. Go watch one of those and watch how few cuts there are in the action in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch a modern action movie and suddenly you're epileptic.
Cut with a weed whacker, eh?
Yeah, and again, this movie is better than a lot of them at not being unreadable once we start cutting.
As we all know, I am a director. I have an aesthetic. I film.
What is your aesthetic, Mark?
My crack house. When I shot my.
Okay, no. In all seriousness, you accused me on one of our shows most recently that if I were to direct a movie, it would just be like depressing nihilistic violence.
Yeah, everything you do would be Devilman Crybaby, some iteration of that.
Which there's a time in my life when that was true. When I was horribly depressed, yeah, everything was awful, and again, nihilism. I feel like your visual aesthetic is, how do I phrase this? Because you mentioned the crack house, and I think that's somewhat right. Hang on, no. Again, we're just talking aesthetic, like not
the actual state of my house,
the soul of your movie.
Sure.
For the record, the only thing in this movie I laughed at personally was the producer going, "Have my movies taught you nothing?" He said that nihilism is a valid worldview.
That was a good line.
Like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled. That one kind of popped me. But I think your aesthetic would be, you would try to take like the Met Gala before it became a joke, and you would set it in Baltimore or Detroit. Like, so the incongruity of something that is pretty and thought out in the worst possible place.
Not wrong.
Those are the aesthetic meshes that would make up Mark Radulich, what Mark is trying to put onto screen.
So in my funny, cheeky way, I was thinking about the music video that I shot for Worthless Opinions, which I'm sure you've seen at this point.
It's on his TikTok if you haven't.
Yeah, with a cheeky explanation of what it is. Anyway,
jokes are in fact funnier when you explain them.
I purposely let long takes in that video, and people like, part of it was a laziness in editing, but also to make your point for you. When I think about music videos, and Jesse and I had a run of a few years where we would spend 3 hours on a Sunday just commenting on music videos, and these were the Metal Hammer of Doom extras. And so 3 years of doing that, Jesse and I became pretty adept in identifying patterns in music videos. It's nothing but a series of like rapid cuts, and it's a rotating of different scenes, just cut different pieces together, and it's very frenetic usually to go with the tempo of the song. And we both hated it. Like, just this drove us crazy. So some of it was, I'm an amateur editor. Some of it was, I don't want to spend hours on this. This was something I wanted to throw together and sort of test myself, see if I could do. But I also started thinking about things that you and I talk about in actual filmmaking of long takes. Letting the it's something I think about. It got brought up with someone's criticism of 8 Mile, where they actually just let the camera sit on Marshall Mathers for like a few minutes. You got to see his face. You got to see him emote quietly, silently. For what that movie is, and it's a movie about a guy trying to make it in the rap world and doing like freestyle and shit like that, battle raps. It's actually a really well shot movie. That was the point of that particular criticism, and it's always stuck with me. That hey, why don't we just leave the fucking camera alone for a little while? Like, let's let the actors act in front of the camera. I think the rapid cutting and editing is to cover up sometimes a shoddy product, and so maybe if we rotate the images fast enough, we can trick the audience into believing something cool is happening when it isn't, which is one of my frustrations with this movie, to make your point.
I agree with you about the tone being an issue, and that's a problem. This movie has very oddly placed like highs and lows emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, trying to make this a mystery for about half the movie when there's no urgency behind the mystery presented, but dialogue is telling me this is very urgent. Big problem with that. That's
yeah. Someone in putting the script together and figuring out the pacing and the tension should have given him a copy of Run Lola Run. That's what you needed.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And lastly, because I'm me, I have a minor gripe that I couldn't help but notice. So, as mentioned, Emily Blunt has 2 scenes where she beats the crap out of somebody. Ryan Gosling, after faking his death, sneaks back onto the movie set in full costume. This is actually a reference to, I believe it's a reference to The Island of Dr. Moreau. If you're not familiar with the absolute catastrophe that
shit show behind the scenes, it's epic. It is more entertaining than the movie ever could hope to be.
But there's actually a documentary about the making of this where this story gets told. The original director, who was fired, snuck back on set and was just in Beastman costume and stayed for the rest of the movie. And it's hilarious. But
it's really funny.
It is. It's great. So I think might be a reference to that, which is very niche, but if you get the reference, you get it. So he sneaks into Emily Blunt's trailer and like tries to talk with her, but he's in full costume, an alien costume. So she thinks someone is just attacking her, and she proceeds to beat the crap out of him. She stabs him with a pen. She does the John Wick book thing where a book goes in the mouth and then we hit it, and she beats him up, and then he eventually like, no, it's me. Please stop hitting me. Then at the very end, one of these private security goons who does the bidding of Aaron Taylor Johnson and the evil movie producer, so female Harvey Weinstein, basically, attacks Emily Blunt, and she gets out of a bear hug, and she beats this guy up. And now, whoever's in the costume when she's attacking him, I doubt it's Ryan Gosling, for the record. She's beating up a stuntman. But whoever that is, and this nameless goon, both sell for her like Shawn Michaels sold for Hulk Hogan. Okay?
I had to know, Hogan. I had to know.
So
yes,
they sell for her, which is fine, what you're supposed to do, right? Between those two scenes, she punches female Harvey Weinstein in the face.
It does one of these. Yeah.
Does one of those, and female Harvey Weinstein no-sells it.
Yep.
I'm sorry. If she can hit hard enough to partially incapacitate private security guards, she would do damage hitting this other woman who's never been punched in the face.
Yeah.
Your lack of consistency bothers me, movie. I'm just saying.
It's a legitimate gripe.
So, again, and that's a minor gripe because me and details matter / bother me. Other than that, again, as a love letter to the profession of stuntman and stunt choreography and stunt work, I liked it. I appreciate that. The bit where Ryan Gosling has to sadly say, no, they don't give out Oscars for stunt work is all of us, for the record. That should have been a category for a while. Please make it one.
That needs to be on a t-shirt.
Sure. There's others just like weird choices to make for references. You have the two guys who communicate in movie talk, which I actually like because I speak fluent movie. But to then have a bit where he's like, yeah, my first stunt was on Miami Vice. Ryan Gosling does not look old enough to have been a legitimate stuntman in the early 80s.
Yeah. He would have been as old as Lee Majors is in this movie.
Yes, he would. Like, that's a problem. Because bear in mind, the jacket he's got is from the TV show, not the Michael Mann movie starring Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx, I want to say.
Jamie Foxx, yes.
Jamie Foxx is terrible. Sorry, tangent there. So that's a bit of a weird. Again, that was a weird choice.
Okay, quick point of order. Miami Vice never got remade, right? I'm not talking about the stupid movie, which Ronnie and I covered in a triple feature, which is mostly forgettable. But did the show ever get remade? Because I didn't question it while I was watching the movie, but you bring up a good point. Like, if you can't be in the year of our Lord a working stuntman in and around 2023 and have worked on Miami Vice. You're 100 at that point.
I don't believe.
Are they referencing a Miami Vice from 20 years ago, maybe?
Let me check. Because, again, there was the movie. I know Hawaii Five-0 got turned into another long-running series.
Yep, that might still be going on.
I believe it is. I
know they remade a Magnum PI show.
That is it, which was a terrible decision. Well, then they like made him bisexual, and it's like, okay, you're asking for trouble. No, they've not. I don't think they've tried to do a Miami Vice TV reboot.
Okay,
I don't
then
think
this is fucking with time in a way that's weird.
Yeah, so that I got a problem with.
Unless this is set in 2000, which, probably not, considering everyone in this movie has a fucking iPhone.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think that's kind of it. Like, this is a perfectly fine movie, but I struggled with it because the flaws are just a bit too obvious.
All right, and with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right, I mentioned this had a budget of 150 million Marvel dollars. As of May 5th, 2024, in the year of our Lord, The Fall Guy has grossed 27.7 million in the US and Canada and 36.9 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 64.6. In the US and Canada, The Fall Guy was released alongside Tarot, which was a tarot deck that kills you, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we are with horror.
Even as a horror fan, I am not going to become an apologist for that movie. I saw the trailer and went, this is the laziest thing you could have done.
Next up, Monopoly, the horror movie. The dog.
Isn't that just reality?
And was projected to gross 30 to 35 million from a little over 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend, with some rival studios estimating it could reach 40 million. The film made 10.5 million on its first day, including 3.15 million from preview screenings, and went on to slightly underperform, but nevertheless topping the box office, debuting 27.7 million. Yeah, that's no fucking. It had no competition. The Fall Guy debuted at number 1. I'm going to talk about this for a moment.
Okay, no. Let me first, just very briefly.
Sure.
Dear idiots, The Phantom Menace was not good when it originally came out. It's still not good. What are you doing? Now, I will give you a minor caveat, because of all the terrible things about Phantom Menace, it's not a good movie.
It's not. It has not held up well over time.
But the lightsaber, like the handicap match lightsaber duel, is legitimately great, partially because Ray Park is awesome. And if all you wanted to do was hear Duel of the Fates on a theater surround sound, that would be worth the ticket, because that piece of music is one of the best things John Williams has ever done, and John Williams is the man.
I don't want to get in a fist fight about this. Duel of the Fates is awesome, and it's worth hearing either the Galactic Empire version or the original John Williams score. It's legitimately one of the best pieces of music ever composed. The lightsaber fight's not as good as you think it is. It is pretty. It is a well choreographed dance. It is a Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match. It is a wonderful tumbling routine. It is not a good. It is a sword fight utterly devoid of tension. And I just took my kids to this. I just watched it, and I watched it with the same eyes I watched The Fall Guy. And I'm sorry, Ray Parker's awesome, but he's so awesome it makes the fight less believable, because that man is doing Patrick Swayze Roadhouse pirouettes in that fucking thing. Liam Neeson is trying his level best, and Ewan McGregor is wondering why he's there in the first place. It's not a good sword fight. It is a pretty dance. It is not a good sword fight.
Okay.
I really thought you were going to be like, no, we're fighting about this. You're just like,
I don't look, man. We spent the first 40 minutes of this podcast on a tangent. I'm not going to fight you on this.
Sounds great. Moving on.
Except to say, it's shocking to me how bad all of the lightsaber fights in the prequel trilogy are on rewatch. I know people who will. I know people who have threatened me over my take on that being true in Revenge of the Sith, but Anakin and Obi-Wan.
See, I like the sword fight in Revenge of the Sith. That at least had tension to it. These two guys seemingly wanted to kill each other. It's mucked up because George Lucas has no self-control. It's mucked up by the gymnastics routine they had to throw in the middle of it. But I at least believe those two were trying to kill each other. I don't with the Phantom Menace. And still, the Empire is still the best sword fight in the entire history of Star Wars.
I might be a little more partial to the one in Jedi, but
I mean that ends with a street fight-esque fucking Luke going crazy, and just hammering on Vader. I think as dramatic tension goes, it's good, but the actual sword play leading to something dramatic in Empire, I think is superior.
Well, what Empire has is the superior story of the sword fight. That one tells a story.
Right.
Jedi is all about the emotions in play between the three people talking.
Sure. I don't know. The one with Rey and Kylo Ren and no, I'm not even going to finish that sentence.
Thank you for not.
Because I'm kidding.
Well, hang on. No. I thank you for that, because then I would have to try and remember anything from those movies, and nothing about them is memorable.
That's fair. My son thought the Phantom Menace sucked. Ladies and gentlemen, the rule of thumb here on Damn You Hollywood, where you can't entertain the 10-year-old with boy stuff, you've lost. Good day. Pack it up and go home.
Correct.
Even so it's so funny because
anyway, the Phantom Menace re-release opened at number 2 is where we're going.
Real quick, I took my kids to go see it, and Jonas looked at me and goes, everything about Star Wars is stupid. Why do we keep doing this? The 10-year-old said that.
Your son is smart.
He's a good boy.
Hang on. He's not always right. He's right about this.
Yeah, he walked up to me afterwards. He was just like, "Stop taking us to Star Wars movies, Dad." I'm like, "Jesus Christ!" And then I looked at my daughter, the saving grace, the apple of my eye, the princess of my dreams, and she looked at me and she was like, "It was all right." I fucking give up, man. I'm not at this point. I feel like a bad dad pushing Star Wars on them. Like eat your vegetables, but the vegetables is like,
Hang on.
broccoli.
Eating vegetables will actually do something good for you. Forcing them to watch Star Wars doesn't.
Fair. Eat your vegetables and it's popcorn. Anyway, yes, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace re-release was the #2 movie of the weekend because it was May the 4th. By the way, anyone that came up with the idea of May the 4th, go fuck yourself. I hope you get hit by a car. Just like we're just the dumbest fucking culture. May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Oh, it's Revenge of the Sith. Ugh. I hate it. I just fucking hate it. And speaking of which, next week Ronnie and I will be talking all things Star Wars on the Whiskey Rebellion. I can't wait.
You're gonna get into a fight with Ronnie over Star Wars. It's gonna be funny.
I'm gonna open that show with a theme to Oz.
No one's gonna get that reference but me, but I thank you for it.
Worth it. Anyway, challengers. So I was on. This is gonna be the longest segment in history because I have to stop and talk about each one of these movies. I was on some movies that don't suck and some that do, and I screamed out in the middle of a review of Boy Kills World. And once again, I was promised a threesome that didn't happen. And I like that line so much, I cut it from my TikTok. I was making a joke, but still. Challengers was said to be the horniest movie of this year, and Whitney Seibel, and Willem Bibiani, and Mark Radulich, and Neil Vives, and Chris Owens, and everybody who has seen Challengers is like, what are you fucking talking? Why does this pass for horny? Apparently there's some light kissing, and that's the end of it.
You know what, Mark? Somebody brought this up. Somebody trying to praise the Roadhouse remake. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this poor misguided soul.
Were they only praising Conor McGregor? Because then I'm with them.
Conor McGregor still sucks, and Michael Chandler is going to probably take his head off. I certainly hope so.
I'm not having that discussion with you again. Keep going.
Yeah. Look, okay, your general bemusement by a coked out man's rampage does not make him a good actor.
Fair enough.
But in reviewing this and trying to, again, defend this misguided, terrible film, one of the things that got brought up was this person going, the original is just too sleazy to be accessible.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hang on. And because my initial reaction was somewhat similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
But I paused for a moment and went, okay, hang on. One, yes, there's a degree of sleaze when you start that movie intentionally because you're getting away from it, right? Like right. It's a deliberate artistic choice to include it.
Yes, there's an arc. The aesthetic has an arc.
Yes. The second point, though, Mark, you and I and people of our rough generation, we came up with stuff like Porky's and hang on,
Revenge of the Nerds,
Cruising, and because Cruising is very dark.
And Robert Winfree's
Hard Bodies.
I was gonna say, and Robert Winfree's favorite movie and Pat Mullen's favorite movie, Blame It on Rio.
I don't know that that's a movie. I've never seen it.
Oh, damn it! That joke doesn't work. It's about an old man who falls in love with a young girl. It's wildly inappropriate, but it's awesome. I saw it as a child.
Once again, explaining you are an onion, Mark, and every layer explains more and more.
Yep. But yes, 10 joysticks, Hamburger the movie.
Okay, but hang on. So the point being, if you didn't come up with a bunch of movies that got wide releases that are sleazy, like Roadhouse tones down the sleaze to have one, an artistic point, and two, be accessible.
Right.
If all you live in is because somebody pointed this out, like somebody did the statistical analysis. You and I have been talking forever about how there's no romance in movies anymore.
Right.
Right. Apparently, that this is like borne out by data. Sex, and I don't mean graphic sex, in movies is down like 40%. over the last, I think it was 10 years.
That seems to be paralleling the trend in actual sexual preference. More on that if and when I ever get to talking about I Saw the TV Glow. Keep going.
But the sexual content that is out is much more graphic. And somehow we're now a society that can only view physical intimacy as porn. And I'm left shaking my head going, how have we failed this hard on a massive level like this?
I don't know, but the last time we failed this hard, God struck down the cities, Sodom and Gomorrah.
We're going to say the last time we failed this hard, there was a flood.
Yeah.
And that is a poor portent, because the next time the cleansing of the earth is not with water, it's with fire.
So, challengers.
I was just saying that to this current generation of film goers, maybe that is the horniest movie they're going to see in wide release.
Zendaya sitting spread eagle on the edge of a bed, light kissing, and that's it for the sex in that movie. If what your point is that we're such a sensitive, merry fucking culture that qualifies as Porky's level horny, then I don't know if I want to live on this planet anymore. Oh wait, I don't.
Hi, look, man. If Elon Musk has taken volunteers for a mission to Mars,
at this point, if Elon Musk is taking volunteers to a mission to the sun, I'll fucking
that's
I'm in.
a bit much.
Moving on. Yeah, I talked about this with Neil and Chris, the whole challengers thing, and I'm just like, what a sissy society we've become. Anyway, Caro debuted at number 4. It sucks, don't go see it. It's by Screen Gems. I can't believe they're still around. Godzilla x Kong fell from 3 to 5. Civil War 4 to 6. Unsung Hero 2 to 7.
That's a big drop for that one.
Kung Fu Panda 9 weeks out.
Still hanging around.
Still hanging around.
Good for them. Good for the people at DreamWorks.
7 to 8. Abigail 5 to 9. Yeah.
It's not. Hang on. It's not bombing. It's just it's
not financially, state. But I know But it was such a small budget that it didn't take much to be successful. And good for it.
Look, congratulations! You made an appropriately budgeted movie, released it. It was successful. Profit was had. This is how it should be.
Yeah. Ghostbusters fell from 8 to 10. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which we reviewed last week in its third week out, fell from 6 to 11. Oof, yeah. At this point, I wouldn't trust Guy Ritchie with enough money to gamble with, let alone make a movie. Dune.
In about 10 years, Guy Ritchie is going to do what Francis Ford Coppola is doing right now, and we'll be very excited.
Dune fell from 9 to 12. Dragon Keeper debuted at 13. I Saw the TV Glow is in limited release. It comes out in wide release 2017. William Bibiani and Whitney Seibel said it's the best movie they've seen this year. Take of that what you will. I'm gonna take my kids to go see it. They were in love with the trailer, and then I heard the review of it on Critically Acclaimed, and now I'm very interested in this movie. If I can talk about it with Neil and Chris, I will. But it's definitely I can see the appeal, especially for someone like my daughter. Wildcat debuted at number 25. Evil Does Not Exist 27. Thabo and the Rhino Case at number 30. Catching Fire, the story of Anita Pallenberg, 45. Lost Souls with a Z, 49. And that's the hood. That was the weekend that was. Alrighty. Dune
Are you ready for a lack of movement, Mark?
Yep.
You're supposed to purr after that. That was going to be. I set you up for your second one.
Oh, let's do it again.
Are you ready for your lack of movement, Mark?
All right.
Okay, Popeye.
Dune Part 2 still at number 1 with a little over 700 million. That's not making $1 billion, but that might be until Deadpool, and even with Deadpool, that might be the highest earner of the year. We peaked in March.
It might. It really might.
So sad. Godzilla vs. Kong at 547. Kung Fu Panda at 520, and then a steep drop to Ghostbusters at 195. Bob Marley from February at 177. The Beekeeper from fucking January at 152.
The first movie, hang on. The first movie we reviewed in the year of our Lord 2024. The Beekeeper.
Yep, The Beekeeper. First theatrical exhibition we reviewed. Mean Girls from February, 104. Madam Web from fucking February, 100 million. Civil War hasn't cracked 100 million yet, but is somehow in the top 10, and that is the state of movies right now.
It's gonna crack 100 million. I want it to do better than Madam Web, just for the lulls.
Oh yeah, me too. And then Exhumer, a movie that neither one of us knows anything about, debuted at number 10. Argyle, currently on Apple TV, is at number 11. The Fall Guy made its debut in the worldwide releases at number 12 with 64 million.
Okay, so Mark, this needs $300+ million to be successful.
It's not making it. It's got Planet of the Apes up next, Furiosa, Garfield.
You know what? I want Garfield to be the highest grossing movie of 2024. I've decided. Hang on, no. I don't think it will.
Mm-hmm.
But I've decided this is what I want. This is what I want. I want Garfield to rule the year because that will amuse me the most.
Okay. Oh, we are all here for your amusement.
Frequently.
So yeah, the Fall Guy's got an uphill slog. It's got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is getting good buzz.
So does it beat Civil War?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's see. Civil War is almost at 100 million.
Well, let's call it 100 million for Civil War. It'll get there next week.
You know, Robert, I think it's going to be plus or minus only a few dollars because I don't. Okay. This is going to lose money for Universal, which is
all right. Hang on.
Shame.
Okay, harder question, and certainly the more tragic one.
Mm-hmm.
Does it beat Madam Web, which is which is barely over 100 million?
Yeah, at this point,
this is our benchmark for the entire rest of this year. This godforsaken wasteland.
We're gonna have like 5 or 10 movies all battling it out for 100 million.
This is the godforsaken wasteland of 2024. Madam Web at $100 million is our benchmark because that movie sucked, was a giant loser financially, and is somehow in the top 10. And this is the movie we're going to judge all these other ones by. Will it beat Madam Web? So, Mark, will The Fall Guy, $150 million budget, Oscar winner in the past, I believe Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, big summer kickoff, does it beat Madam Web, the most shat upon movie of the year?
The world is not fair and God hates us, so no.
God does not hate us, but the world is not fair. Actually, the world is perfectly fair. It's just not fair to the concept of human morality.
Well, it's not fair in the concept of
theological discussion aside.
Well, yeah, it's not fair in the concept of human morality aside is the phrase that pays here on the DMU Hollywood. So with that said, here we go with the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
You know, when I look at these scores, I'm reminded of the Eddie Izzard bit when he was talking about having a British career counselor, and the British counselor says, "I advise you to get a career." Like, and to that I mean, it's just the state of movies right now that, as good as this is, as well received as it is, if you're a studio executive and you're not totally in tune with the culture, you haven't been listening to the last few years of Damn You Hollywood, where we've repeatedly said, you people have destroyed this marketplace. There's no coming back from this. The genie is out of the bottle. The horse has left the barn. You cannot put this back. You cannot fix Humpty Dumpty. It's broke. It's broke forever. At this point, we would have to lose the internet for people to start going back to the theaters. And even then, it's like, well, I can't watch movies at home anymore, but I still don't want to go to the theaters and deal with people. You know, I might be shot or get a disease, and it's, you know, none of these movies are worth it. So I feel bad for The Fall Guy because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like the girl, you know, who grew up and she was a pretty girl in a time where that kind of pretty girl nobody likes anymore. Like,
if you were,
but I did everything right.
Hang on. If you're a curvier woman in like the mid 90s, You know, when everything had to be heroin chic.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, if you were a like contemporary model type in the, 70s.
I was gonna say, like they used to say about like the women of Marilyn Monroe's time would have been considered like fat in the 90s.
There was a period of time in the night. There's a reason we had a bunch of public service announcements about eating disorders.
Yeah. And that's what I think
Just
about when I look
saying.
at the Fall Guy. In any other time, you're a pretty girl and you get, and you get all the flowers, but you happen to be living in the time of Mad Max. So what are we supposed to do? And with that said, 83% fresh critical score and an 87% audience score. So yeah, all critics is 83, drops 2% when you go to the top critics.
Yeah, that's about right.
All audiences is 83, but verified audience actually knocks it up 4 points to 87%.
Again, that's about right.
And the AI writes, with action, comedy, romance, and a pair of marvelously matched stars, The Fall Guy might be the rare mainstream movie with something to entertain everyone. Yep, it'll be very entertaining when it comes on Peacock.
Here's the problem. Okay, couple of problems. One, when you try to entertain everyone, you frequently wind up entertaining no one. Two, I saw people say the following about this movie, that go see it in the theaters. One, if you want more original content out of Hollywood, you have to support movies like this. That is true. But two, it really does benefit from the big screen, to which I say BS. Mark, last week was the 45th anniversary of Alien, the original Ridley Scott Alien. And because my youngest brother, who has much in common with me in his taste in movies, television, and books and the like, had never seen Alien at all. Which when I said I failed you as a sibling, deeply and profoundly, I grabbed him by the ear and we went to the movies. And my mom came with us because apparently she's seen Aliens, but had never seen Alien. And my other younger brother, I'm the oldest of three, so not immediately below me, but like my two youngest. He said, yeah, I've seen it before, but I'll go see it on the big screen. He brought his wife. And then afterwards, he turned to me and said, in fact, it's Alex who comments on our movies, on our reviews on occasion. He turned to me and said, nope, I'd only seen the second one. And I promptly hit him and then hit myself because I had failed both of them profoundly. But I've seen Alien. I've seen it many times. Love that movie. It's classic sci-fi horror, great filmmaking. I'd never seen it in a theater because it came out in 1979 and I was not born.
I was 3.
Yeah. But
I was
watching it on the big screen, that's a movie that was made for the big screen, you know?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because you don't strictly speaking need it. You can watch it on the TV or your computer and it can still be just as effective because it's a very well-made movie. But I had the same experience when I saw, 2020, when most places are shut down and theaters are like, what in the world can we do? Let's re-release old movies because nothing new is coming out. I took several of my family members and we went to see Jaws because I've seen Jaws many times. It's freaking Jaws. Never seen it on a big screen.
Right. I took my kids to see it in the big screen too.
The entire third act when they're on the water is different on the big screen. Every single bit of it. It's the same movie, but it's designed for it. To say nothing of the music being great and the surround sound and everything. We have lost. Hollywood has lost, with very few exceptions, the art of making a movie that is meant to be projected on the side of a building. Nowadays, everything is made to be seen on your phone. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that is a lost art. And when
I think the other side of that is you can recreate the home theater. You can create the theater experience at home. The biggest argument I get into, and we really need to get into the reviews so we can even get close to 2 hours here, because we should not be spending over 2 hours on this movie. I know we had
this movie spent over 2 hours of my life. I feel okay with this.
The biggest argument I got into in the last few years over whether or not someone should go see the theater is I have a big screen, flat screen TV at home. I have Dolby Surround at home. I have food, and I don't have to be around people. I can turn it off and walk around, which is my favorite one. I'm going to put this movie on and then not pay attention to it. But the point of it is there is nothing about the in-theater experience for the average ham and egger that made them. I mean, like I was telling somebody who went to the movies as often as I did, go see Dune Part 1 in the theaters. You have to see it on an IMAX screen. And they were just like, it's on HBO Max. I'll watch it at home. And I wanted to hit her and the person next to her just for being close to that stupid statement.
Yeah, for the record, Dune absolutely was both of them movies that knew, hey, big screen. Let me use this. This is a giant canvas on which to paint my picture. Let me do that. And then everyone complaining about watching it on a TV on a computer monitor, losing out on the experience. Well, that's on you and your choice.
But it's hard, but again, and I was thinking about this before we started the show tonight, we do this podcast, we watch these movies because we, to one degree or another, you'd never know this by the way we talk, but it is the truth, that we are in love with the theatrical experience. We like going to the theater. We like sitting in the movie theater, in the chair, in the audience, whether or not there's other people there or not. We like to be there in those places. It's like, like the person who can watch baseball at home, but likes to go to the stadium to watch a game. Just likes being there.
And movies, the theatrical experience is almost more important. That was our last, what do they call it? The book Bowling Alone, which is like the seminal discussion about the dissolution of the societal fabric.
Communal experiences?
He calls it like a third place. Like, where do you go? Like,
right.
where are you as...
Yeah, this gets brought up when you're talking about the mall again.
Yeah. So you as a human being, you're going to be at work, wherever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be home. Maybe you'll be at church. That was a time that was a very reliable place. But like your third or fourth place, where's that other place you go? What's that other place you do? What's the other thing you do that is not home or work? And again, for a lot of people, it is church, but that's been dwindling in a lot of areas. So where is it? What is it? What is the other thing that we do as people, as friends, as a society that binds us together? One of the last vestiges of that was the theatrical experience.
Right.
And it's congratulations, Biden, or I mean a little bit Trump too, like to COVID. Congratulations to the overreaction to that. And I'm not saying there should have been no reaction. I'm not an idiot. It's a horrible disease, killed a lot of people. But between that and everybody and their dog deciding that they needed a streaming service, their own unique streaming service, Mark, everyone has one. And now they're all being consolidated back because turns out we're just going to cable and we've just added streaming to it. And it's just terrible. It's the worst.
All right. I mean, we could go on about this, but we will. This is an ongoing conversation that you and I are having.
We're desperately trying to fix it somehow.
That there's
We're
no
advocating for its fixing.
No, there's no fixing this. At this point, you're Legolas, climbing, falling stairs, like in The Hobbit.
For the record, I've thought other people have mentioned this. I think it's true. The absolute apex of the theatrical experience and quality of filmmaking crossover, it's still the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, for sure.
Other movies have been bigger, but that was the absolute peak of incredibly well-made movie, blending techniques.
If you want a more modern one, the last time you had near universal acclaim, money to match, and a communal and a community experience was probably Avengers Endgame. Like I joke about it all the time. It's a common refrain on here. 2019, the last year before the end of the world. But in a lot of ways, it's still true. The world is so not the same place it was 2019 and earlier. It is an almost unrecognizable hellscape.
And not to bring this up again, But I've heard way too many people talk about this recently, especially with the end of the school year coming up, because that means a lot of testing. And my mom works for the school system, and I know a bunch of teachers, and bless them. Some of them suck, but bless them in general. I'm not going to pretend that teaching is that all teachers are great. I lived through that. So did all of you. Some of them are great. Some of them suck. Don't know what to tell you.
That's like cops and nurses and keep going.
Everything else, basically.
Yeah.
The only universally virtuous profession, Mark, is podcasting, and only if we limit that to ourselves.
I was going to say the only virtuous career is movie reviewing.
Yeah, but it's gonna be another like 10 years before we really understand the damage that was done by shutting down the world.
I don't want to get into it now.
For 18 months.
I don't want to get into it now because we really got to get going here. But there was a conversation that took place about Jonas and about the kids his age and what effect COVID had on their personalities, their socialization. And my son's not perfect. I mean, I talk about him pretty glowingly on here. There's a lot of things I like about my son, but he's not a perfect child. He requires as much parenting as any child. And he fucks up just as much as he succeeds. The point being, he's so much further along than his cohorts. His peers, yeah. And we said that with the understanding that that's still not good. Like there's some personality, and part of it is he's also me. Yeah,
he is your mini you.
Yeah, but to the degree that you take me out of it and you just kind of look at his socializing and his way of interacting with the world and how stunted it is by what happened, that's with me and his mom having basically the first chance we got after the lockdowns getting out in the world. You know, I said we were the people going on vacations that year 2020. We were the people. I was the one of the parents taking my kids to movies and taking them out. And it's like, put your mask on, let's go. You know, I refuse to be a prisoner in my home. And there are people that to this day, you know, don't want to leave their house, still wear a mask, still don't trust things. And those people have kids, and the effect that it had on them. Because again, I also know a teacher or two. And
no, really?
And the population of students and their way of interacting with adults and other children has drastically for the worse changed in 10 years. In a 10-year time period. Like, it's, again, nigh unrecognizable.
Yeah,
anyway.
But it's going to be another 10 years before we can really look out and suss out the long-term damage from that.
MV Moorhead of Less Hat Moorhead, which I'm only reading because this is the stupidest thing ever. Less Hat Moorhead. Yeah, get it. The movie goes down easy. It's not bad. It's a lot of movie to just be not bad, I suppose. But I certainly found it preferable to the modern iteration of the stunt movie, the humorous and possibly pernicious Fast and Furious flicks. Okay.
Look, I am always down to dump on that franchise. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. And he's not wrong. That was one of our complaints. Like, you're going to make me sit here for 2 hours. You better be something more than just passable.
Ed Whitfield of Trey, Robert Winfree.
Have they reached out to you to like record a voice line for there's something to do with them? Because they really should.
They don't know I exist. This is a likable movie that would have been great had all the tedious ticks and tendencies of modern productions not been wearingly present.
Not wrong.
Yeah, it's what we
again.
said.
Like we both said like pass on pass fail. This could have been done better.
Lauren Veneziani of DC Film Girl. Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt have incredible chemistry in this film that is the perfect blend of romance, action, thrills, and laughs, while also highlighting the importance of stuntmen in the film industry. Thank you for reading the copy you were given.
Yeah, that's a PR pitch, not a actual review.
Yeah. Eric Martian of Rogers TV. Every single time stuntman turned director David Leitch confidently crafts a slogging sequence made to enthrall, it eventually exhausts engagement. Yeah, we kind of said that.
I also don't know that the semicolon is the appropriate punctuation mark to use there.
Joe Lipset of queer.horror.movies. It's weird. The Fall Guy is less about criminal hijinks than using them as an excuse to highlight action movie stunts and watch the electric chemistry between Gosling and Blunt. And in that capacity, the film is a stunning success.
4.5 out of 5 stars. My man, your standards are impossibly low.
Black Robert Winfree, Armand White of National Review. All of the films...
hang on. If there's a black version of me, do I get the N-word pass? Is that how that works?
Yes, please use it liberally on this podcast. Armand White of National Review.
If I ever meet Armand White, I'd be tempted. I'd be tempted to
you
go,
absolutely give him a high five and just and say it in the colloquial sense.
Yeah, no, like that's what it would be. Like, hey, you're the black version of me, so you're my
bunch.
Good way to get hurt in a hurry.
What did you do today, Armin? I punched a Mormon. Weird way of phrasing that. No, let me explain. No time. Let me sum up. All of the film's fatuousness substitutes for the lack of relatable substance in contemporary Hollywood product. The Fall Guy blazons the insipid content that the movie industry never tires of selling us. Oh, he's just so frustrated with this job.
That's a bit cynical.
Yeah. That guy's having an existential crisis.
Little bit. Like, of all the negative things you can say about this movie, it is made with an earnestness for what it's trying to do that it muddles the story because the story is secondary to some of the love letter that it's trying to send, which is a problem, don't get me wrong, but it's a genuine love letter, and pretending that it's just this kind of like cynical self-celebration, I think is selling the movie a little short. It's not quite that. Babylon is that.
Jeremy Johns at jeremyjohns.com. The Fall Guy truly is a film that if it came out somewhere between Lethal Weapon and Rush Hour, it'd be right at home.
Accurate. 1,000,000% accurate.
Hang on. It's a little more shallow than Lethal Weapon.
Well, sure, but he's making a point about the time period more than
fair.
Hang on, to that point, if you want another movie that had it come out in like 10 years earlier, 20 years earlier, would be an all-time classic, go watch The Rundown with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That's great.
It's a great buddy action movie.
Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies. It feels like one of those stunt show spectaculars performed at theme parks, with the story as an afterthought and ends up being simultaneously convoluted yet cliched and predictable yet baffling. Wow.
You know what?
When you lose Kevin Carr and the 10-year-old boys.
Hang on. He's also not wrong. We have one of our crusades has been to make Kevin Carr a more serious film reviewer. We have been succeeding.
Yeah.
He's going to backslide next week, I'm fairly sure. But this week, you know what? Good job.
Sonny Bunch of The Bulwark. Pure unadulterated fun. Hang on. Johnny Oleksinski of New York Post, top critic, former newspaper. Your cat could write this movie. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, hang on.
Just fucking done.
My cat could plot this movie, not write it.
Mm-hmm.
Two different things there. I will give you that the plotting of this movie is kind of stupid and could be done by an animal. Some of the intricacies of dialogue, though, no. That requires human touch.
All right, we're taking next week off because I'm going to Rockville and I don't have time to go to the movies.
Which day of Rockville, Mark, or are you going to all of them?
All of them. I leave Thursday morning. I won't be back until late.
You're going to come back and everything's going to be on fire.
I hope.
You understand this.
God, that is my one lasting wish.
The last thing you see in this world is going to Rockville, and then.
So next week, if you enjoyed my take on Star Wars, you got to hear it for an hour as I argue with Ronnie Adams and make him cry. So
you know what? Go for it. It'll be great. It'll be great podcast material.
Yeah. So Ronnie and I are going to talk all things Star Wars because it is May the 4th. And then Metal Hammer of Jukebox is back. We are going to be looking at Unleash the Archers, Phantoma, and whatever AI shit Jesse's got going on. And then on Thursday of next week, we have to reschedule this from earlier from last week because Sean had a 2 weeks ago. Because Sean had a family emergency. So We are doing only 2 Pride shows this year because I had to kick the third one down a couple of months away. So we're starting off with Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Tomorrow, speaking of shows that got delayed, myself and Jason and maybe Dorian and possibly Neil, but definitely just Jason, we'll be talking Freddy versus Jason, Lake Placid versus Anaconda, and Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf, which did not live up to its potential. My children thought it was boring. Speaking of my children thought it was boring, Alexis will be hosting a podcast. She will be reviewing.
How did you get to that? That's a weird segue. The last thing your children think Alexis is boring. Your son likes to fight with her.
Shogun, and she'll have on Robert and David Wright and Justin out. And I thought I put this on the schedule, but apparently it's not on my schedule. But it should be on my schedule. But it's not. There should be. Alexis Hannah will be doing a double dose of TV parties as her and Good to His Mother. He's a good boy. He tells funny jokes. Zachary Strobel, and they'll be talking Knuckles because, children. Knuckles sandwich. I'm done talking now. Oh, when are you going to be back for Damn You Hollywood? In 2 weeks. So May 20th.
I'm done talking except to wait. I didn't promote the actual show people are watching right now. Oh crap.
We are back on Damn You Hollywood Monday, May 20th with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and myself, Robert, and Chris Owen will be back from Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do.
He got sucked into the black hole. Too late for him now.
Yep. And then because Memorial Day is on a Monday, we're going to move Damn You Hollywood to the 28th, and we'll be talking Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Now I'm done talking now.
All right. Mark mentioned it, but Wednesday we will be talking Shogun. Alexis is hosting TV party tonight, and I just really wanted to talk about a good product, Mark.
Occasionally that happens.
So when Shogun got brought up, David Wright will be on it, and he's very knowledgeable about the history of East Asia. So he's going to be there to provide some of the historical context and talk about some of the events that are being fictionalized here. I was so happy watching that show. Like it's good. It's not perfect, but it's good, and it's so nice and so damned infrequent to just watch something good and then get to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you.
Watch the show be a total disaster now, but
speaking of disasters, the Bruins beat the Panthers 5-1, and I had money on the Panthers. I also had the over, which I got the over and the wrong team, so fuck me running.
Well, doesn't over usually apply only if you get the team correct, or do you just?
Well, that's the thing. It's a parlay, and so no, you either win the whole thing or you don't.
Okay.
But the Knicks beat the Pacers and the over, so once again, I win 3 out of the 4 things I bet on. I should stop.
This is what, Mark, parlays are sucker bets for just this reason.
Yeah, well, if I had done them individually, if I had just bet the Knicks game and just bet the Panthers game as 2 separate bets, I'd at least won one of my bets. Instead, I'm an idiot and went for the big money. I'm dumb.
You should not gamble. It's not.
Yeah, I don't have much luck. I occasionally win bets. Don't get me wrong. I won my Cavaliers bet yesterday, but then I go for big money again, and I didn't follow my own advice. I said I wasn't going to link 2 different games anymore. Just bet on one game at a time, but juice the bet. So, take the win and take the over, or the under or the spread or something like that. And that usually gets me to where I need to be. But I thought, well, surely the Panthers won't lose game 1. I'll tell you what, I will take solace in this one thing, and I'm going to let you finish your plugs.
Okay.
There's a gag in the house now that every time I bet on the Panthers, they lose, which pisses off Melissa and Chris. I'll take that.
You know what? Take the win.
Yeah, I'm going to keep betting on the Panthers now just to fuck them. And the Boston Bruins sweep the Panthers 4-0 in the NBA playoff, in the NHL playoffs.
I was going to say, not... If you're betting on that thinking it's basketball, that might be part of your problem.
That there's the problem. There were no home runs scored at the hockey game. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, you were talking about plugs.
Yeah, so again, I'll be on Shogun on Wednesday. That'll be fun, hopefully. I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. This Saturday was UFC 301, where my predictions, I went 11-2. And because I kind of know what I'm talking about, it turns out, just a little bit.
Yeah, you told me to bet on Ursag and he lost.
Okay, hang on. I told you there's some value there because he has a better chance of winning than the odds reflected, and that played out.
Yes, you also told me don't bet on Canelo to knock out Mungie, and I said, he's hittable. Which he was. He knocked him down. But,
Did he knock him out?
He did not.
Mark, Canelo hasn't finished someone in like 5 years. It's not quite that long, but Canelo at this point...
Did you see they're announcing a super fight between him and Crawford for like early next year?
They're trying that. And good, Crawford will make him actually fight instead of coast. Canelo bores me.
I'm hoping... They really were pushing the David Benavidez thing. I'm hoping they can get that match together.
He should have fought David Benavidez instead of Jaime Munguia. But David Benavidez
the money
dangerous.
Wasn't right.
David Benavidez might beat Canelo. In fact, I would pick him to do so.
Oh, we'll see if they can get it together. And
Canelo doesn't want it.
The money has to be right. Yeah, Tyson Fury didn't want Alexander Usyk either, and they made that happen because they promised him a small
Have
island.
you heard what Canelo said the money would have to be for him to fight David Benavidez?
Tyson Fury money, Saudi Arabian money, Tyson Fury Saudi Arabian money.
He wants a Marvel budget.
I think
I'm not kidding. He wants $200 million.
I say give it to him. I mean, like at this point,
no.
No. Have Disney give it to him. It's not like the $200 million they're spending on movies is getting them anywhere.
That's look. You know what? If paying him that means I don't have to watch the Thunderbolts, okay. You know what? Fair enough. That's a trade. I'm willing
I'll
to
get
make.
that deal going.
If you can make that deal, thumbs up.
What happened to our Thunderbolts movie? We took the money and gave it to Canelo. Who? What's that have to do with anything?
A boxer, and then we had him shot in the ring. And we gambled on the mid-match homicide, and boy did that pay off, and we doubled our money.
I paid off my house, my crack house that I shoot videos in.
Look, if I was going to tell you one underdog you should have bet on for that card, it would have been Aldo, and turns out I would have been right.
Yep.
But you would not have had a good night betting 301 anyway. There were 2 underdogs who won all night, only 2.
Okay, keep going. We're almost done here.
So if you can find a full review of that card on the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I also preview this upcoming card, which is a pretty decent fight night card, except the main event is Derek Lewis.
Oh, hot balls.
And it's going to suck.
Yeah, but he'll do something fun at the end.
No, he won't. Mark, let me tell you what the UFC is doing with this.
Ugh.
They're putting Derek Lewis in there with a gentleman named Rodrigo Nascimento. And they are praying. Dana White, noted atheist, is down on his knees praying to whatever will listen to him that Derek Lewis ends this fight in the first 30 seconds. Because if he doesn't, the preceding 23 minutes of action will be some of the worst crap you will ever see in your life.
So you're
and
betting
it's going to be some of the worst crap you've ever seen in your life.
So you're saying bet that this goes the distance. Got it.
If you wish to gamble on that fight, yes. Derek, that would be a fair bet. At a bare minimum, take the over. Okay.
Come on, wrap up.
So full preview for that card. And apart from that crappy fight, it's actually a pretty good event. It just needs a better main event.
Like every girl has said to me in sex this year, for God's sakes, finish already.
I could say something very unkind, but I'm not going to.
Oh, another quote from earlier this year. God, you old men take forever.
That was just your driving.
No, that too.
It was your set at the naked karaoke. Just someone heckling you with, "Old man, shut up and get off stage."
Neil says the next time I do naked karaoke, I should do Bad Touch for the Bloodhound Gang. And I'm totally gonna.
Okay, yes.
That's going on TikTok. My shirtless fat ass doing the Bad Touch.
You know what? Do it. That's good. That's good. Okay.
Sweat, baby.
I also
sweat.
cover again mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I do WWE SmackDown on Friday.
You and Robert Winfree and me talk about the things that only Prince would sing about. So put your hands down my pants, and I bet you'll feel nuts. Yes, I'm Siskel. Yes, I'm Ebert, and you're getting 2 thumbs up. Keep going.
You know what? This is what happens when I set you up for a purr. You take it way too far when we keep going. And you know what? I asked for it. It's my own fault.
That's what she said.
That doesn't make sense.
I asked for it. It's my fault. That's what she said. Makes perfect sense.
No, it doesn't.
Keep going.
So WWE SmackDown on Friday. That'll be something. We're post draft. We're post backlash. We're trying to set stuff up now. So who knows? And then the UFC event on Saturday. As Mark mentioned, we're taking next week off. So hope y'all stay safe out there because we'd hate to lose you. We really would. Much as we joke about the state of the world, we try to make it better. We try to entertain, educate, and we would like you all to stick around, except for that one guy, and he knows who he is.
Yeah, fuck that guy. All right.
Everyone else, please stick around.
Be well. Thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood in our review of The Fall Guy. Woo!
And other things. This was more other things than Fall Guy, but we'll take it.
Be well, be safe, and behave.